Hello.
How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Closed a fucking job. I woke up in the morning and literally the first thing, as soon as I opened my eyes, my phone buzzed and someone was like, "Hey, I need something done." And I was like, "Fuck yeah, dude." So
You're like, I am the person for this task.
I said, maybe I'm the person for this task. I was, but yeah. So
You're like, let's figure this out.
always the move. So this one's on your channel. I gotta look at the camera. I mean, you want me to ring lead, or you want to ring lead?
Yes, sir. You start. You're well versed currently. I am a mental terror with all the edits I have going on right now.
Cool. So today we are talking about building industry friendships and
Yes.
all the rest. I already have the little intro from before. So
Nice.
all right. I'll let you start since I started last time, if that sounds fair.
Okay.
What is your take on, the importance of inter-industry friendships, relationships, and all the rest?
Totally. I think, well, obviously, as we know, relationships are key, especially in something like video or creative content. You can do a ton of things on your own, but it's super important, as I think as most creatives know, like you can only get so far by yourself, which is why, especially as things step up and you see production companies or small creative collectives and things like that, there's always somebody that is maybe a little bit better at something than you. Maybe that's Photoshop work, or just maybe it's a program, maybe it's something like that, and it's something that comes from a design perspective you might need help with. So building a relationship with people that excel in different areas, or maybe something that you don't always do yourself, is huge, obviously. And then building off of that, when you go out to shoot, maybe it's a bigger shoot, you have a bigger budget, maybe you don't have a bigger budget, but it is a big shoot and you want to maybe do a spec shoot or something, everything's for free. You need somebody to help with lights. You need somebody to help with gaffing and making sure things are all taken care of so nothing falls over, nobody gets hurt. It's huge. So building those connections, those relationships is probably one of the top most important things, especially too, maybe say you're in the middle of an edit or there's something else going on and you have a family emergency or something else come up and maybe you just can't finish that, but your client is really counting on you. Maybe there's somebody out there that that you trust, who edits well, and if you either speak with your client or maybe get the pre-approval, you can always send it off to them, and that way you're covered on all aspects, from lighting to design to the actual edit itself. So I think community is everything, especially for just that overall support when maybe you're having a tough day or a tough edit, and you can just literally text somebody and be like, "Man, this is what's happening. Can I talk to you?"
Yeah, I think, well, we've both been there with each other in terms of different experiences. But I think it's on that aspect, it's super important because when you're freelancing or, just like a creative in general, it's like you're kind of that your whole team is you, pretty much. You don't have coworkers. Yes. So it could be a little bit weird because you're like, oh, fuck, I need to vent to somebody, or I need an opinion on this and all that. And it's I have, my friends in music, and I have my friends that are just they do whatever, my barber friends and all this sort of stuff. And I can vent to them or talk to them about something or get their opinion on an edit, but it's not the same as when it's coming from somebody that actually does the same thing that I do and has a different feel to it. So it's obviously friends as a whole are important, but having the industry friends is good too, because you're not I don't know, coworkers are nice sometimes. We can find them annoying when we're working for someone else and we've got a bad coworker, but imagine when you're freelancing, your freelancer friends or creative friends are basically you building only cool coworkers around you. Yeah, so that's kind of how I feel on that end, and then
I love that.
not only that, but there's stuff like you said where you're gonna need help on something somewhere down the line. Like my YouTube intro card, like that I just filmed, or I had my friend Jasmine film. Like I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have done. I mean, I maybe could have done it myself, but like it would have just been so much work. And realistically, like I got a better shot of seeing Jesus Christ do a kickflip down the fucking Grand Canyon than having gone out and filmed that myself. So, you know, I took an hour of her time, and then I filmed some stuff for her.
Nice.
And it was cool, and it was easy, and that was that, you know, and that's how you get content together. And, you know, not only that, but like I think different creative people, we all have our own little audiences of different sizes and all of that sort of stuff. So when you start collaborating and like doing those little favors for friends and stuff, it like only builds everybody up, because then they're like, oh, like this guy works with all these cool people, and like I love this guy's stuff, so like I'm gonna go check out this. I saw Ori McInnes do that with McInnes. I don't know.
I'm sure he won't mind.
Yeah, I saw him do that with a dude, Kingdom of Dana, with a recent Bad Omens video, and I didn't know who that guy was, and then I was like, he nailed this like super dope skateboarding shot, and I was like, I'm gonna follow that dude. Seems cool. So, like building a little network is always dope.
Yes. Oh, that's huge. No, I love that. And that's a good thing to bring up. And I think it's something too that people, especially people starting out, need to like really consider and hopefully be open to. Plus it's just nice sometimes too, especially if you have a homie or somebody local, you can just be like, hey, I just need to get out of the house. You want to like grab some food and go take some random footage, and you might get some of the best content you've done in a long time just out of that spur of the moment thing. And having somebody that is creative in your corner, even if they don't film or do what you do, again, even if it's design, you could film something really cool and they could make a cool design with it, and you could combine those assets, and now you have something that you can maybe use for stock footage later or for something else. And it's just huge, especially when maybe you just need to blow off some steam or just do something for yourself.
Definitely. And we can, when you need to blow off steam, it's definitely better to do it to an independent party that has experience in their own ways, so that that steam doesn't blow off onto the clients, because that can happen super easy. I'm not going to pretend like it hasn't happened to me.
Same.
But anyways, in addition to that, like, you're going to eventually run into paid opportunities with your friends too. Especially if, you know, and I guess I should clarify when I say like inter-industry friends, like you shouldn't be like friending them with the expectation that they're going to like give you jobs and money and all that sort of stuff. Like, I know that like I'm friends with my videographer and photo and all that friends because like think they're cool people, and I try to, if I can, when I get jobs that have, you know, a proper budget and all that sort of stuff, like I try to make sure that I can bring in, you know, all my industry friends, and that way we can all eat, and you know, they kind of do the same for me. So it's important to try to incorporate those friends into your projects, you know, as best you can as well.
Yeah, no, that's huge. That's it's interesting you bring that up, and I can't believe I didn't mention that earlier. Especially, when things grow, now maybe you know somebody who got a big gig, they need your help, and you need extra money that month, you can help out, or you get introduced to the right people through somebody else who's a creative, and now your whole life changes. And it's just amazing. It could be something as small as a local gig and just doing a couple photographs to traveling overseas. I mean, you make a really good point, from just being able to, again, blow off steam to potentially something that could have a ripple effect on the rest of your life, positive or negative. Hopefully people are being smart about who they're choosing to work with and what they do. But yeah, that's a really good point. I love that.
Yeah. Let's see. What else do you have to add to that in terms of let's bring it in the direction of networking, how to network, who, when you are finding friends that you can work with, like, what do you look for, that sort of direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that kind of recaps, too, a little bit off of what we had talked about last week in terms of knowing how to market yourself as an individual, but that also pays dividends when you're trying to grow as an individual and then maybe start your own creative collective or company or just get bigger jobs. You find people that you can trust, and through doing that, like for myself personally, being on different platforms such as like Instagram and Facebook, I was able to connect with people and like start to build that community. And it was through just using different marketing, tactics. Whether it's through just like commenting on other people's stuff because A, you really like it, and then B, it'd be amazing to work with them. So literally just being a part of any conversation, I think, again, like we had talked about before, especially online, is huge. And then actually one of the things too I found is through being online, and especially through things like Instagram and whatnot, you can look up your area and you can find possibly small creative collectives of just like meetups or just group things where people that do things get together, and that and then in turn then helps you connect with more people. And again, it's all just through being aware of what platform you're using and like taking advantage of it in all the right ways for the right reasons.
Correct. That's actually how I made pretty much all of my friends here in
Really?
Austin. Yeah, when I first
That's
moved,
awesome. Yeah.
there just so happened within like a week or two of me moving to Austin, there was a photo meetup, and I found it through searching all of the hashtags that I was posting in about Austin. Cool. And then I was like, all right, like I don't have any friends here, so like I need to make some, so like I'm gonna go to that thing. And then that same friend that I mentioned, Jasmine, I met her just a little bit before that by, again, searching through the stuff, and she moved like 3 days from Boston. She moved 3 days earlier than I did, I think. So yeah, it was really weird. We didn't know each other in Boston. We both moved at like the exact same time, and so it was just one of those things where we're both like, hey, I'm new to the city, I don't know anybody. So yeah, that's meetups are great in terms of
that's
like
huge.
Just getting out there. And I think the other thing too is like I think of that that Seinfeld meme with what's his name, the mailman, I forget his name. Newman, yes, there it is. Yeah, where he's sitting at the thing and he's like, hey everybody, look, like this guy, and then all the memes go in different directions, but it's like, hey, look at this, everybody at the meetup, like this guy's trying to make new friends and network with people. Oh, see, nobody cares. Like that's it's amazing. Okay, put yourself out there. Cares. So
that's awesome.
Like, don't be afraid. I'd say look up events in your area, and then don't be afraid to just introduce yourself to people. Hey, can I take your photo? Oh, let me look up your Instagram. What do you do? Tell me about yourself. Tell me about your gear.
Yeah.
And that goes across every industry. There's, musician meetups, I'm sure. There's photo meetups. There's graphic design meetups. There's general, like, I went to one that was just like, it was called like Creative Meetup. And like, I met like a video game designer and like whatever. And those didn't really turn into anything but, small conversations and stuff like that. And I think meetups are a really good place to start, because not only is it going to help you with like your elevator pitch, so to speak, in describing yourself really, really quickly, and seeing how you fit into someone else's life in a space that is meant for meeting other people. And it's okay if you're a little bit awkward, because chances are there's plenty of really awkward people there. And people invite their friends, so you meet one person and then they're like, oh, hey, like you should meet my friend Jeff, and like whatever. So you get a nice sense of community, and whether those relationships last or just kind of die down, and like maybe you see one of the dudes in Target like in 3 months or whatever, and you say hi. It's like you never know where any of it's going to lead, but doing those in-person meetups that you can find online is a really great way, I think, to network, and is going to, in the long run, benefit everybody.
You know what I like a lot about what you said, what that brings up is the idea behind, one of the reasons I like networking slash creating content and being on different platforms and trying everything is all of them create different forms of practice where you learn how to not only like create for different content, but then you learn more about yourself and how to actually communicate better because you're using so many different things. And like you said, those meetups with a couple people didn't turn into anything, but what it did do was it got you out, got you out of your element, like got you out to meet with people, and then the practice of actually just talking to them, learning more about them, you know, picking up from them, and that all in turn evolves into something that actually makes you as an individual just continue to level up, because over time all those conversations, all those meetups, all these different things on every level, it's just practice for you as a person and your personal brand. So that way, whether you're an independent contractor or part of a big team, you become stronger as an individual, so you become stronger as a whole, no matter what area you're working in. So I think that's huge. You brought up that it didn't work out, but it still had a huge benefit, even if it wasn't inside of that moment.
Yeah, exactly. Because
I love that.
I think there's a tendency in a lot of people, and I don't want to say all of us, but in a lot, particularly in this like age of the internet, where it's like that riffraff thing I brought up, you know, in the last video, where like people want to be recognized like across the US or across their country or the whole globe, or they want to go viral, and it's like all of these things, but then it's like locally they don't have that core of like actually having real life friendships with people, of those that like care to see them succeed and that you care to see your friends succeed. And it's like, I mean, yeah, I guess you could like blow up from just being an idiot on the internet by yourself, but I mean, like it's not really going to work as well, because imagine if you have even just like 10 friends in your city that like you all interact with each other's posts and whatever, so your engagement naturally goes up, because like all these social platforms see that people talk to you and engage with your content, and you know, you have friends sharing what you're doing because they know that you share their stuff when they post it, and you know, you're all supportive together. So I mean, it's like the likelihood of everyone succeeding is higher if, you know, you actually take the time to get to know people and, you know, try to have meaningful relationships with them. That's not only, you know, in the sense of like you're trying to feed yourself, but like I'm super stoked when my clients like, or not my clients, sorry, my friends like do something like really dope and like unexpected, and like you see them level up, and like I'm like so excited about that, because it's like, you know, it doesn't sting me in the way that I think it stings a lot of people, particularly like creative people. Like we get really competitive for some reason. Like dude, I am not worried at all about any of my business going to any of my friends. I mean, fucking take it, dude. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't bother me, and it shouldn't bother you, because
that's oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. That's a huge thing I think a lot of people forget. We talked about in the last conversation, our last video, about being in the hair industry and cutting hair, etc. And I actually look at doing creative work in the same way, in regards to if you're good enough and you're good enough of a person as well, and everything on top of that, as long as you're taking care of like your side of things, there's always more business. And especially in today's day and age, with the level of content that's being consumed on every level, there's somewhere literally for everybody if they really want it. Like it comes back, like we talked about being in the shop and talking about different ways to communicate with customers and or clients and friends, etc. And you'd see people that would grow and people that wouldn't. But when you broke it down, like why they weren't growing, you'd see basically different actions and things, and then you'd be able to see who was successful for what reasons and why. And with video, I think it's video and just creative work, like you mentioned, like we're talking about. That's one of the biggest parts of it, is knowing that there's always another head of hair coming around the corner, and you're also really only as good as your last piece of work that you put out. And knowing those things, I think, makes a huge difference, especially if you come at things with more of a I have something to give, as opposed to I'm just going to make sure it's all for myself. I think that's a huge mental shift that can make a difference, I think, not only in like your creative life, but just life in general. So I love that you point that out, because especially if I have work that I can't get, or maybe I lose to you, I feel like, cool, I deserve to lose that work because he earned it. Like, that's what's up. And that just makes me want to be better. And I admire that. So that's a really good point you brought up.
And I'm gonna speak like directly to musicians at this point, because I know that I have a bunch of musicians on my channel, and they've been actually asking me a little bit about networking. And this can be applied broadly, but directed specifically,
we're gonna hit that
in the direction of musicians here. You can't be egotistical about your music, and that comes in a lot of different ways. Specifically, if you're playing a show, stay for the whole show and talk to every single band that's playing, and watch their set and be supportive, be in the front row. You know, that's going to go a long way, because when it comes to in-person stuff, like, you want to be the cool guy to hang out with that's supportive of other dudes' bands, and you actually don't look cool when you leave early, or you're hiding in the green room, or you're doing whatever. And like, yeah, sure, there's like the rock star thing that you can do when you're a massive band, and you know, that is a little bit different. But I promise you, like, having been around really big bands, like having done hair on Warped Tour and like going out to shows to cut hair for musicians, they still hang out with each other in the green room, all of them. So we need to break the ego down, specifically in music. Like, you're not too good for these bands, even if like they're quote unquote worse than you. Like, don't talk down to them, or like treat them weird, or ignore them, because whatever, you guys are still playing the same show, you're at the same spot. So I don't know like what that is there, but just be nice to everyone. And dude, you can find something nice to say about everybody, you know what I mean? It's really not that hard. So that's the in-person thing. And then another way to network for musicians, like, make posts about music and ask to see people's music and talk to them about it, and like engage with what they're doing when you see their band. You know, post on Facebook that they're releasing a new single, or they've got new album artwork, or they've got this, or they've got that. Like, engage with it. And if you can afford to pay for it and support them monetarily, like, you should do that too, because I promise you, even though it may not come around right away, like, they will eventually get to that point with you as well, and they will notice your support, and they will give it back. And if they don't give it back, then maybe they're kind of on the egotistical side, and maybe slow things back a little bit. But that part of networking is just going to be on your end, understanding who is a genuine person and who is not. Because that's all it's ever going to be, is just like, you know, be a good person and try to attract good people. And when you see the bad people come in, then you can push them away. But don't just assume because X, Y, and Z, or you've heard this, or you've heard that, or you think their music sucks, or whatever you think. Like, break down that wall, man. Like, they're just the same as you. And I'll bring it to psychology for a second, a little Sam Harris moment. In the sense of free will, you don't necessarily have it, because when you have certain actions and things happen to you throughout your life, it connects certain neurons together. And the long and short of this whole thing is that when you really break it down to like a cellular level, you would be the exact same as another person. Like, you would make every single choice that they would make if you had the exact same life experiences as them. And it's not their fault for being the way they are, so stop judging them on it. It's not fair. And like, I think that for me was a nice way to be like, all right, like, let's calm down and not expect everyone to be a certain way, because I think that that's morally or business or whatever correct. It helped me take away my idea that like my way of thinking is the correct way of thinking. Everybody's different.
That's huge.
You know, and
that's huge.
And that's a scientific fact, is that you would be the same as any other person if you had their same experiences. So there's no way to treat anybody poorly. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point to make. I couldn't agree more.
All right. So let's see, where can we go with this? Why don't we talk for a second how we met? Because I think that's actually, I don't know if you remember the exact transcription of events that led to it, but what's your recollection of it?
Well, my memory, I have been learning from people. My memory is terrible, which is great and really bad, because there's a lot of things where I'm like, I don't remember that, and I'm okay with that. But if I could have sworn we connected online first, and then
Correct.
didn't we? From there, we actually navigated. I was filming at a hair event in New York, and right, I think it was New York.
Yeah, it was International Beauty Show New York last year.
Okay, there you go. It was the International Beauty Show in New York, and last year, and I knew you were going to be there. You know I was going to be there, and we just made it a point to link up and actually make that actual real connection. And what was cool about it was we got to actually connect, meet up, but then for me, even as an added bonus, you took video of that event and had video of me in it and gave me clips. So I actually had something to post to show myself actually working an event, as opposed to just me maybe having to take a selfie or do something else. It was cool to be able to show kind of a little behind the scenes of doing an event. So that was awesome. And that for me, that cemented things, because that really opened up a channel of communication that was more than just DMs back and forth.
Nice. Yeah. So I have a very good memory.
Good.
So I remember the exact way that everything happened. So basically, you were making videos for Stay Gold 31, Sophie, and I saw one of them, and I was like, I was in my early days of like getting into actually filming things myself and not just editing them, and I was like, yo, whoever's making this video is fucking crazy. So I commented on her post, and I was like, who made this? And she tagged you, and then you said thank you, and I followed you, and I DM'd you, and I basically dick rode for a minute. And then, I said, I was going to IBS, are you? And you said yes, and we met up there, and we were... you were filming Alfredo Lewis for a second at the Brazilian Bond Builder booth.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep. And I tapped you on the shoulder and I said, hey, I'm that dude. So then I followed you around, and you were really dope, and like taught me a bunch of little camera tricks, and taught me what S&Q mode was. I didn't know what that was at the time. And I shot some mediocre handheld stuff of you, and you use it, and I was like, that's dope. And that was definitely a highlight of that for me.
That's huge.
So I was super stoked.
Wow.
And it was beneficial, and it's been beneficial this whole time, and we stayed connected through it. And that's how we're here making this current YouTube video, is just always having, I think, each other's best interest in mind, and not really trying to be like, I'm going to try to one-up him and whatever. It's just been like, oh, here's a cool dude that's like, we're really similar in a lot of areas. So like, why not see how we can both benefit from that and throw our heads together? Yeah.
And it literally, when you bring that up, it loops everything back full circle, in the sense that it paid dividends, making that connection, and then taking that extra step, and then just introducing yourself, and going out of your way, and then meeting in person, etc. Now from different talks to, hey, I have this in my contract, what do you think of this? And being able to bounce ideas off somebody who knows where I'm coming from, and there's a mutual respect. And then now just being able to make even content like this, just free-form conversation, and to just really kind of put some ideas out there and start a conversation with anybody that's interested, and maybe even meet more people from these videos. I mean, it's huge, and that's I'm really glad you have a good memory like that, because that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
I'm very weird in the sense that I could remember an exact conversation I had with somebody like 5 years ago, like to the word.
That's crazy. That's terrifying. That's a superpower. You're an alien.
It gets me in trouble sometimes. My short-term memory sucks though. So my long-term memory, good. Short-term memory, not good.
I'm impressed.
But where I do want to jump is the contract thing.
Yeah.
I think that is something that's really important for creative people to learn how to do. So I feel like, we'll let people decide how our conversation on networking is, and we'll maybe revisit it at some point. But for right now, I feel like that's a pretty good start for people to implement on their own. And we can get into contracts a little bit, because that is a really important aspect of successfully navigating a creative field on your own.
Absolutely. Yeah, so, that's huge.
Yeah, it's the bread and butter, and you can be the best videographer in the world or the best, whatever, but if your contract isn't, air fucking tight, good luck. It is going to be a rough ride, a real rough ride. So, why don't we start this here? Why don't we talk about your contract first, and you can tell me a little bit about that and sort of like the different clauses that you have in it and what your mindset was with it, and then I can jump to what I have, because we had very polar opposite contracts, I think. I mean, they were similar in some areas, but like mine was really strong in some areas and yours was really strong in other areas. Yeah. So, maybe start from the past and then maybe where it's at now, and then I'll start in the past and I'll bring mine to where it is now.
Yeah, that kind of ties into the whole business end of everything, and basically the evolution of being somebody who starts filming and then starts to take it more seriously. And then after you start getting your first free gigs, you start stumbling into gigs that pay. And then the stakes kind of rise from there. And then you kind of learn, unless you, keep in mind, anybody that's listening to this, for myself personally, everybody differs, but I didn't go to video school, like college, anything of that nature. I learned everything on my own as far as video, and then from learning from other people, but I don't have a traditional background. I did go to school, but it wasn't for that. And why I'm saying this is because once you start taking things more seriously and you start trying to branch out and do things for people, you start to notice that at a certain point you do a video here or there or something, and then you'll turn around and somebody wants an additional thing from you that wasn't expected, and you go, oh, okay, and you do it. And then hopefully not on that same project, but then maybe later on another one, you'll see that suddenly there's another couple of requests, or they want more revisions on a video, or they want things that weren't discussed prior, or maybe you thought it was just for fun or this other thing. Now it's being used for something else, or people are taking content that you've done for them and using it to promote themselves, and they're making money, and they don't even put your name down. Now they're making money and doing all these other things. You not only didn't make money off the project, you don't even get the social credit or currency to even say, hey, that was me, to maybe pick up work that might pay, which then makes you basically forces you to realize, oh, I should probably protect myself. And that was my path. And fortunately enough for myself, another one of my great creative friends, his name is Jamie, but his Instagram and his online presence is Late Night Canvas. And he does a lot of logo work, light graphic design, things of that nature. And he's also very good with management skills and things of that nature, and he's run teams of people. And he helped me come up with basically he's helped manage a lot of projects that I've done and been a go-between between me and clients, where also we came up with like a 3-sheet system in regards to finding out what people are looking for, setting expectations, and then also an actual set contract that states this is between this person and the freelancer, or this company and the freelancer. These are the dates of shooting. This is what expected. These are the rates. This is overtime. This is rush fees. This is number of revisions, everything that goes into it. And it kind of evolves. And mine, more or less, my actual contract revolved around, this is the money, these are the people involved, these are the due dates, this is the number of revisions, and then clauses in regards to whether or not things can be broken due to certain reasons. And then my additional sheets that I had went over expectations, things of that nature, and that was my contract. And then when we kind of shared that information, I then looked at yours, and yours covered a lot of things I didn't consider, like, what if I get sick? Or what if my gear breaks? And other things like that. I was so focused on making sure the project was protected and myself as far as the project and the work went, that everything else as far as my health and gear and rental fees and just my own well-being was completely crushed, which has been my like creative career, as it took off really quick, but then everything else fell apart. And so it's been very interesting to see that even from a contract standpoint. So mine was more project-based, and yours was project-based plus how do I protect myself as an individual and the things that make up what I do. So that was my perspective. I think you might remember.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. I would add that your contract was very client friendly. Yes. In ways that mine was not. Because when I wrote the contract for myself, I was just like, I thought of literally every example where I had ever been taken advantage of. And I was just like, that's not happening again. That's not happening again. Definitely not this, not that, not that. Yeah. And so it had this very like me protective thing. And then it kind of relied on, I mean, no one ever had an issue with it, but it was definitely like, okay, you better take me at my good word that, I'm not going to burn you, which I would never do. But so when I read yours, what I learned from that was like, okay, I should include things like the termination clause and all of that that protect the client a little bit, so they feel more secure in the contract that they're signing. And I continue to actually update my contract almost with every project. I have like a template version of it, and then I'm always thinking of like, okay, what's the next thing that I can do to switch it up. So one thing that I didn't like necessarily was that I didn't have every time I had a project, I would be like going over what I consider to be like the correct way to tell me what revisions you want. So what I did is I added a clause into my contract about revisions that state, this is the format that we're using for revisions. You can have, as many as you want on one sheet. But they've got to be stated with the time code that's going to be provided on the draft of the video. And, basically this is how many revisions you get, and this is what, quote unquote, like one round of revisions is. This is what it does include. This is what it doesn't include. So basically I took from your contract, I took all of the client positive things, and then I filled in a little bit of like the loopholes. So with like the termination thing, I was like, okay, that kind of leaves an out for somebody to, if they were nefarious, which unfortunately, like I have run into those kind of people. If they were nefarious, they would use this clause of the contract to break off the project if I didn't meet, some ridiculous standard that isn't outlined. So basically to close that loop in the revision part, I was like, these are what are acceptable revisions, anything, but it doesn't include undiscussed like After Effects, CGI, XYZ, whatever it is for, the individual project. So basically I said, if it's any of those things, it can be done, but it must be at an additional charge. And if if the client is insistent on those things done, it is not grounds for termination of the project.
Big time.
Because I think reading over your contract and proofreading it with your creative friends and stuff is really important, because basically, to me, when I think of a contract, it is like, for creatives and videographers, it is like your license to carry a firearm.
Yeah.
You hope you never have to use it. I don't ever want to hold a contract over a client's head. I just want it to be a signed thing, and everyone's like, all right, cool, these are our expectations, everything's good and gravy, and we're onwards. But it is always there to protect you. It's always on your hip, and it should be something that lets you know that you can sleep at night. And I think if you have a nice, robust, strong contract that is well worded and sounds fair and is fair, I think the clients that you have are going to respect your work and everything that you do that much more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you have everything outlined and you're like, this is the outline on my hip. You know what I mean? Like, you can see it. Like, let's not be confused about what this is. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's fair for everyone, because, you know, there have been times where we've gone over revisions, but then the client realizes, okay, this is how much I paid. This is what I was expecting. And, you know, now I'm asking for more. So they're clear in their own head when they're asking for more than what they paid for. And then we can proceed fairly with minimal disagreement. And, you know, I have an idea when I'm reviewing the project and like working on it. Okay, what did I include? What did I say that I would do? Okay, I said I would do this stuff. Okay, that's fair. And then if a client asks me, hey, can you do this other thing? I can look at the contract and I can say, okay, this wasn't included, this would be extra. Or, you know, I, of course, of my own free will, sometimes I'm just like, I felt like making this little bonus thing. So you can have that. I had somebody try to hold basically bonuses over my head once. I had verbally said to him after I had finished the project, I was like, oh yeah, I'll throw in this bonus stuff, you know, tomorrow when it's not my day off. And he went all crazy on me and all this sort of stuff. So then, you know, I was protected in the contract, and it was like, okay, case closed, that's done. So it's really important to have that stuff, because even the most unsuspecting people can like just completely flip a switch and really try to go off on you. And it's worthwhile to have something there that doesn't make you worry at night, like, oh God, this guy threatened to do whatever to me, you know, knowing that you're safe in that. And, you know, that if it were ever brought to a legal thing, that it would just get laughed out of court in 2 seconds.
Exactly. Well, it's interesting, and it kind of brings up an idea of something we could always talk about again in the future in regards to a creative person, like creative time management and health and well-being, etc., and how it all ties in together. But that's actually one of the biggest parts, I think, of the contract, and the importance that maybe gets overlooked. People start to think of it as this thing of, well, this is how I protect myself financially, and this is how I protect my gear, and this and that. And one of the biggest things I've found that becomes one of the biggest problems, and actually is one of the best reasons to have a contract. And if you're a creative out there and you're listening to this, you're somebody who's just starting, you're the people who message me personally and ask, how do I get started? Learn how to get a contract that not only creates a protection, a wall for yourself and your client financially, but also for yourself personally from a time standpoint. And that's why you mentioned and I mentioned in this conversation, the biggest point I'm trying to get at is there's a reason we have a number of rounds of revisions. There's a reason we set dates and times. It's because especially when you're working by yourself or with maybe a small team, you have to stay within those parameters for certain reasons, because you book around it and you book accordingly. Now what happens when you jump over that date? Now you have extra revisions and other things being added in, but you've started another project. Now you can't like mentally completely commit yourself to that one project because you have that other thing sitting in the back of your head. Now you have to get off that other project to go back and work more on something that should have been completed. And that's where a thorough like vetting process, and that's a whole other thing, like making sure you're going through and storyboarding and coming up with a brief and making sure that your time with your client before you even sign the contract, everything is stated and worked out prior, and hopefully that goes according to plan. And most of us know that it doesn't, but you basically just want to protect yourself not only financially but also in your time, because when things start to overroll past due dates and people want more things of you and then they also don't expect to pay more, now you're losing your time and your sanity, and you're not making the money that you should be during that time. So I can't stress enough the importance of actually learning right away how to protect yourself on all aspects.
Yeah, that is massive.
Yeah.
I love that.
Burnout. You don't want to burn out. It's really easy to burn out in this stuff because you jump into it and you're like, I'm so creative and this, and then people are like, oh, I love what you do this and that, and then suddenly everything starts to melt on top of itself and you can't even turn on the computer without wanting to just toss your screen over, because now you can't be creative because you're so pressured to get so much done. And I know there's a lot of pressure in the industry and this and that, but I also have come to learn the standpoint of it doesn't have to be. If you want to be in the type of video work and the type of creative work where you have all these deadlines and these big events and all these things and pressure on you 24/7, that's absolutely fine. But I don't have to choose that, and I don't have to live that life. And that's part of the reason I work the way I work, is so I can work with people I respect and care about and do good quality work that I cherish and I think other people really enjoy. So it's like, choose the life you want with this, and you can create that, but you have to also be upfront with it, create it properly, and take responsibility for what you've set up for yourself.
Yes. So well stated. Camera reset. We're on 49 minutes, so it's probably been 20 since you reset it, but we'll give you a nice early one.
Cool. And we can... Okay.
So, one of the other things that is important in the contract and just general understanding of relationships with your clients is when you do make videos for your clients and they go well, obviously that gets pushed out to their network and potentially people ask about you. And so particularly in a field that I work a lot in, which is the tattoo field, pretty much actually all of my clients are good friends with each other. And the nice thing about it is I treat them all fairly as much as I can, and they are by far and away my best clients because there's a whole circle of accountability. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this guy knows that guy and they're really close, and this guy, through 1 degree of separation, these two dudes have hung out and whatever. So, they've all seen the work that I do and they understand how it's going to look. And then they've talked to the other people. Okay, so this is how this guy is. He only does 2 revisions, or if it's this much, he does 1 revision or whatever, and he nails it in this time. And this is the style of video you're gonna get because these look similar. And you can push him to do this stuff, you can't push him to do that stuff, and it all works out really well. And I have a great relationship with all of those people because I built from just the very beginning. I knew this from hair. It's just, there's going to be people that you want to work with, and you treat those people well, and you set a clear set of guidelines for them, and it'll just come full circle. And everyone that comes from that person will be probably really similar to them. And if they're not, the person they got referred from is probably going to tell you if you ask them about, oh, this guy's this way or this guy's that way. Not saying that has happened. Everyone's just been like, oh yeah, this guy's great.
Yeah.
And they've been correct. And it's because I trust them, and I have, not with all of them, but with a few of them, I have, long-standing friendships with them. So I create my own clients, so to speak, in the sense of they know what to expect, they know the work that I do, they either like it or they don't like it. And if they don't like it, they don't even bother hitting me up. And if they like it, they do, and they come with tremendous respect and the same level of respect that I have for them. And it's just, those are my favorite and easiest projects to do because very rarely is there any confusion about what is happening.
Nice.
So it's just, if you set the rules straight from the beginning and you're consistent with them, and you have a constant evolution, you're only going to get the good clients. Yes. And if you start taking lowball offers and making exceptions and doing this and doing that, the person that bullies you around and messes with your head, just think of who they probably know and who's willing to put up with that person in their personal life.
Yes.
You probably don't want whoever's coming from that person.
Absolutely.
because they're probably going to be real similar to them. And if you didn't like working with that person, you're not going to like working with the person that they're homies with, more than likely.
Very true.
I don't focus on the people that are a pain in the ass. And, you know, that is probably, we'll maybe get into a little bit, and then maybe we'll do another one down the line. You got to be willing to walk away from projects when they're put on the table.
Yep.
You know, you have to assess every project individually and understand the needs and take the time to do it. And this is going to help you in a lot of areas, but you got to just, with everybody, you got to be willing to just put it down and be like, you know what, not for me, but thank you for your consideration.
100%.
I don't think I'm the guy.
100%. Yeah. It all comes back, like I said, in regards to vetting your clients, and when you go through that process of building a timeline for the contract and the project itself and everything, you really start to see if they're serious. You'll notice right away when you ask people to provide simple things like, all right, what are you looking for? This, and this. And then you get past that stage, maybe you talk money or whatever, and then you start asking for reference material, other things. And the more days that go by where you don't get a response, you'll start to learn really quickly, like what you're willing to put up with / what to avoid. So it definitely becomes a learned thing, I think, for a lot of us. But then once you get there, just remember to create the career that you want and set those boundaries, because they'll pay dividends again for years to come, especially when it comes down to creating that community and everything else around you. Like, what you allow to happen will continue to happen. So just be aware of that.
Exactly. I always bring it back to hair, but that was what I learned through a lot of my successful hairstylist friends, was just like, they were willing to let people go, and they would put up with certain things and they wouldn't put up with other things. And I think some people took it too far to an extreme, but you know, it was just one of those things that if it was like, if they think you're a bad client, see ya. That was it, you know. And they would either politely be like, you know, you're a good person, this isn't personal, I don't think this is a proper relationship. I had to let some clients that I thought were cool people go because the way they treated me in a business manner wasn't okay. And you know, it got to a point where I was evolving in hair, where I jumped up to like the $60 price range for men. I had obviously less clients because that's, for hair in particular, in Boston where I was at, that was a fair chunk of change for a men's haircut. But I was really happy with all of my clients that I had. They were everybody that I wanted, and I had a nice, easy time, and everybody that got recommended from the people that I had relationships with were great. And it was like every day at work was just super chilled, because I didn't have to deal with, you know, any new crazy stuff from, you know. And I guess I should say also, when we say like bad clients, it's not like they're bad people or whatever. It's just a mismatch. They're a good client for somebody else. There's going to be another videographer, photographer, hairstylist, manager, record label, whatever. There's going to be a nice pairing between two other people, and if you can facilitate it, that's great. If you can't facilitate it, it's not on you anyways.
Yep. Just building it and taking responsibility and knowing what's best for yourself, whether you have to learn it or you know it right off the bat. Just keep that in mind. And I think all else, as long as you have good intent with the value, because I think it's there's a guy a lot of people know of, his name's Simon Sinek, and Simon Sinek was the first person I heard say people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So as long as you keep your intent and the value and why you're doing certain things behind it, and then also remember to take care of yourself a little bit along the way, I think you might be surprised with what you could do.
I think that's definitely correct. And remembering to take care of yourself is of the utmost importance.
100%.
Because it's, I think recently both of us have been burned out by different things, and it's like, it does get to a point where it's like, just the action of like sitting at your computer to edit something is like, oh my God. It's like you begin to hate the video you once loved. And then not only, you know, maybe the client's happy with it and that's great and that's kind of the end goal there, but you kind of lose out on a piece of content for yourself. You know, usually the way I run it with my clients is like, they post something, you know, they post the work that I do, and I post stuff from the same thing because I'm stoked on it, and I want people to see it, and I want people to go to their page that are, you know, originally following mine and start interacting with them. But if you lose that, where it's like, man, this fucking sucked, you know, it's like, then that doesn't happen, and you know, it feels kind of lame because you're like, man, I spent like 3 months on this, something that should have taken like 2 weeks. And, you know, now your Instagram's falling behind because you didn't have time to go out and take photos with your homies. And like, you know, this other client that like was good or is good, and like you're now behind on their deadline and they understand or whatever, but like, you know, you're bummed out because you're like, this shouldn't have happened in the first place. You know, I think that's a nice conclusionary point. Is just like wrapping it all up is take care of yourself, make sure you protect yourself with your contract, make sure that you have a good circle of friends for personal and business support, and you know, try to make sure your friends succeed and make sure you succeed as well. And that's the big overarching picture.
Take care of yourself and take care of others. It just goes back to those basic things in life, I guess, right?
Yes, it does, but it's easy to forget.
There's a good talk. I appreciate these are good things to go over, and I'm glad. I hope somebody heard something that we said and can build from it. So until the next one, I think this was a good conversation.
Yeah, I think so too. I really hope that these are useful, if not enjoyable, and moderately whimsically funny sometimes.
There's definitely humor in there.
I hope there's humor. I mean, I wouldn't know. I'm not a comedian. None of us are funny, but I enjoy it. I enjoy talking to you.
Same here, man.
Any excuse I have to talk to you for an hour on the phone is good by me.
I appreciate your patience, and it's nice to do the whole call and everything of itself. And with that, like we talked about, now that this is done, I have to go back to editing multiple projects so I don't lose my mind.
Okay, well, I wish you the best with it.
Thank you, man.
All right, bro.
Dude. I'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.
Later. All right, hopefully you enjoyed that conversation between me and Ryan Chisesi. As always, if you have anything to add, feel free to comment them down below. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it with one of your creative friends, whatever you think is useful. And this is all about growing the community as a whole, and hopefully you think that it does that and that you gain something from this. The next video that I have coming out for you guys will be in a different setup. We're going to be in Minnesota, and I'm going to be sitting down with Travis Ross. He's a tattoo artist, and he's also known for his work on MTV's How Far Is Tattoo Far? I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I think we'll have a fun conversation. Maybe it'll be a little bit more lighthearted, but that one's going to be for tattoo artists and people more in like the drawing space. So we'll see where that goes. So stay tuned for that.